I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. I'm doing this as a volume 2 to my military confessions and tribulations, military experience, um, some advice for guys that are maybe on the fence about going in, some advice for people that kind of wondering, uh, you know, which path to take, which branch to go to, stuff like that. In volume 1, in part 1, I know I left off speaking about the only knowledge and information people really have about the army or the military period is what they see in movies, you know. One moment, please. And because of that, there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of, you know, curiosity. Um, most people who join the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, um, what I've come to learn when I was inside the Army was most people really joined because they had either no other options in life, or it was a way to stay out of trouble, a way to get off the streets, um, a way to provide some type of financial stability. It was a way to learn something new, leave your hometown and where you grew up, and everyone and everything you knew. Um, you know, even for me, coming out of school, coming out of college, it was leaving school, I should say, you know, dropping out of school and really not having any way to pay for school was my personal main reason for joining. Um, you know, basketball and sports was always my main goal and my main priority, you know, at that time, at that age. And being able to financially provide for school and, you know, fund school, it was really out of the question any other way. So the military was like, you know, the only option. Um, so, you know, I was very unaware and very clueless as well, ignorant to the, you know, what exactly the military consisted of and all the requirements and all that. And, you know, outside of my father serving in the Navy, you know, before I was even born, and, you know, a few of my uncles and even his father serving in World War II, you know, that was pretty much the only knowledge I've ever had about, you know, the military, especially the service, you know, within the family. Um, when I first went to the recruiter's office and I wanted to enlist and register and sign up and all that, I didn't really know what I would want to do in there. You know, I knew I wanted to go into the Army, which if I could do it all over again, I probably would have went into the Navy or the Air Force. Um, That's what I tell people that ask me for advice on where they should go and what they should do. I always advise like Navy or Air Force, you know, mainly because it just seems like the Air Force and the Navy take care of their soldiers a little better. So going into the recruiter's office and going into the enlisting and all that, he just simply asked me what I like to do, and I told him I like to drive. I like to drive. I like to be on the road. Originally, I was flirting with the idea of becoming a tanker, but he told me I was actually too tall to be a tanker. And when I actually saw the size of those tanks inside, I was glad I didn't become a tanker as well, because it is tight in there and it is small in there. So I ended up going with 88 Mike transportation, driving the big trucks, and all the Hummers and different trucks that the military has. The main one was the LHS. That's pretty much the main vehicle we operated and drove, and pretty much used for everything. So I sign up and I go to MEPS and do all the physical stuff. You gotta take a physical, you gotta take a urine test, you have to just go through all these technicalities and these different tests and stuff they put you through, all these different squats and stuff. Felt like jail, honestly. Felt like it was some type of institution. The way they had it set up, it was just nothing but a bunch of other guys around. Y'all are naked, getting examined, bending over in front of the doctor. Felt like you was about to get locked up. But once you get through all that, you're pretty much waiting to ship out. You're pretty much waiting to ship out. And once you go to MEPS, that's where you actually take your ASVAB test too, as well. ASVAB test is like the test they test people on before they go into the Army or any branch of service. It's amazing to me though, looking back at those days, looking back at those times, that the level of uncertainty and the level of anxiety of really not knowing what to expect, and once you get through all the MEPS process and you're waiting to ship out, you get your boot camp orders, you get your boot camp station where you're going to be stationed at. And it was interesting enough to me because I was going to Fort Benning in Georgia as an 88 Mike. My recruiter told me that was rare for that to happen because most 88 Mikes went to Fort Leonard Wood to get their boot camp training and their advanced training, their advanced individual training, AIT. 88 Mikes were transportation headquarters, if you will, was based at Fort Leonard Wood. So going to Fort Benning, an infantry base, and at that time it was an all male base, no women. It was not co-ed. It was all men. and that's where all the Rangers went. You know, cavalry, like I said, infantry. Um, that's where all the what do you call it? The diving school, air combat, all that is at Fort Benning. Combatives, pretty much anything that dealt with hand to hand and infantry and artillery and front line of defense was at Benning. No matter what else anyone tells you. You know, guys, it's like, you know, people always want to compare, you know, whose boot camp was harder and whose boot camp was tougher and all that. And I think I mentioned this, I touched on this briefly in volume 1. There were no soldiers coming out. There were no soldiers like the soldiers in Fort Benning. Simple. And you realize that when you got to AIT and you saw how different, how much of a soup sandwich everyone else was compared to the soldiers that came from Benning. The soldiers that came from Benning were just squared away, in shape, disciplined, respectful. It was just different, man. It was really different. Like, you can really tell who came from Benning and who came from other bases, like, for real. Leaving home. So once I finally shipped out and I got there, it was, you know, all a process going from airport to bus to, you know, finally pulling up to the Fort Benning and seeing all the statues and seeing all the, you know, historic things they have sitting outside the base. It was like, that's when it hit home. That's when it hit home. And that's when it kind of resonated that, man, I'm doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, this is happening. I'm here. What now? What next? You know what I'm saying? So, of course, they take you through the whole end processing and everything. And like I said, being at Fort Benning and being around nothing but other men, it really made you feel like you was getting ready to go to the pen. like it really made you feel like you was about to go to jail, bro. Like, it was nothing but men around, nothing but crazy ass drill sergeants, man. Now, the drill sergeants that was at Fort Benning, all these guys were ex-Rangers, like, you know, ex-airborne, you know, seen all kind of crazy combat, went on all kind of crazy tours, man. Like, these guys were some real nasty guys, man. It's like, you can tell most of those guys really been through some shit, you know. But and it's just no wonder so many of the veterans come home messed up and they end up homeless, or they end up killing themselves, committing suicide. It's like, when you actually are around these guys and you actually speak to them, just see how they move, man, and see, you know, you hear their mindset. It's like all they know is war and death and killing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't even know if some of those guys have to pass some type of, like, psychiatric test before they become drill sergeants. Because let me tell you, man, some of those guys look like they had a switch that no one can turn off, you know. But anyway, so we get through getting all our gear, getting all our uniforms, getting all our essentials, you know, that they prescribe to us, or, you know, give to us. And interesting enough, it was like, you automatically felt something different. Now there was always rumors, and there was always like whispers going around that they would intentionally put things, and I believe this wholeheartedly. You know, that they would intentionally put things, different chemicals in the food and in the drinks to, mess with our hormones and mess with our emotions and our adrenaline and just everything. Our sex drive is what they were initially after, and intentionally after, was lowering our sex drive. And it was lowering our sex drive, but it was boosting our testosterone, if that makes sense. It's like it was lowering our sex drive in one area. It's like it was lowering us in one area, but boosting us in another area, ultimately to turn us into killers, man. That was ultimately the goal. Training us to just be numb, teaching us to just be machines, emotionless. And if you think about it, it makes sense, man. Why so many guys come home not the same. You definitely don't come home the same. I tell everyone that, and you're definitely not the same person you were going in, coming out, and you definitely lose some of yourself, without a doubt, especially guys that's been in combat, especially guys that's witnessed and experienced crazy things across the water, but just the training in itself does enough damage. Just the training in itself, just preparing for what you may possibly have to do one day, is enough in itself. No one should have to go through combat training. You know what I'm saying? No one should have to throw a grenade. No one should have to shoot a 50 cal. No one should have to let off a rocket launcher, right? Like, no one should have to crawl through a field with explosions going off on each side of you and bullets flying over your head. No one should have to do that for any reason. You know what I'm saying? So we get through in process. The first 2 weeks were hell. First 2 weeks were hell because you're not sleeping. You're completely deprived of sleep, and you're just constantly on the go. You had, wake up, it was like 4 in the morning for exercise, mandatory exercise. And then right after that, you go to breakfast, and then right after that, boom, more processing, more paperwork, more vaccines. So this is another thing with the whole, that goes back to what I was saying about what they were doing to the food to regulate our hormones and everything else. The vaccines that they were giving us with, it's like, man, first of all, they were poking us like pinatas. Like, I mean, it was like a pincushion. Like, it didn't make sense how many shots and vaccines we were getting. And to this day, we don't even know what we were being injected with. To this day, we don't know what long-term effect it could have on us. To this day, we don't know what short-term effect it's having on us. One thing is for sure is I never even appreciated the way they even went about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like the nurses, the soldier nurses that they had on base giving these injections, where it's like just the way they were giving them was just out of line and out of pocket and just very suspect. And just didn't really make any sense. Uh, we really felt, if we were really thinking back on it, man, it's like we really were lab rats. You know, we really were like test dummies and nothing but a number. You know, um, once you finally got through all the vaccines and got through all the paperwork and blood draw and all these different things, man. And like I said, it was almost like it was designed for you to just go through it blindly because you're just so deprived of sleep and so sleepy and tired and exhausted. You're not even really thinking about what's going on. You're just going through it just to get it over with and get on to the next thing. It's unfortunate, man, but we get through all that. We finally get sent down range to our platoons and to our companies. Everything is pretty much split up by last name, and they're the company is pretty much a big building split up into 4 platoons. A platoon is nothing but a big room with all the bunk beds, the bathroom, the shower, etc. Washing machine, dryer. That was the platoon. And you get your bunk mate, you get your locker, and you pretty much move in. And it was like, it was interesting because all the people that you were around and all the people you were meeting during in processing and all the people getting to know, it's like you didn't even see them no more once you got to your company and to your platoon. You didn't even see them no more. You didn't even know those guys anymore. Some you may see around here and there, but it's like you were constantly making after a while faces got familiar. After a while you got to know who was who in your company and especially in your platoon. Drill sergeants and everybody really. You know, um, your only outlets, your little brief outlets, were the lunch ladies and whoever the supply was, like whoever was bringing supplies to the platoons and to the companies, whoever worked on base but wasn't a drill sergeant, you know what I'm saying? It's like whoever worked on base that wasn't a drill sergeant, those were your only outlets as far as just some type of regular people and cool people that were just cool and chill, you know what I'm saying, and wasn't on some shit. 'Cause all the drill sergeants were on some shit, man, all of them. Yeah, one drill sergeant, uh, Dominican dude, man, from New York. I mean, I'm assuming he was from New York because of his accent, but he was like the only dude that was like, and you know what? They didn't like him, yo. The other drill sergeants didn't like him, and you can tell that they didn't like him because he had a different like demeanor about him. Like he had a different type of energy. Like now, don't get me wrong. Those first 2 days, everyone was on some shit. They just trying to scare everybody and break everybody in. Everybody was on some shit. Even his little crazy ass Dominican ass was crazy. I thought he was the craziest one at first. But yo, as time went on and things, we got into routine and shit. Yo, he turned out to be the coolest one, chillest one. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he'll actually talk to you like a human being. You know what I'm saying? And try and teach you some shit. And you can tell that other drill sergeants hated that shit. Like that shit. Like you can tell they did not like that shit. But and being in there, man, it's like you can tell who was racist, who had prejudice, perspectives, and stereotypical views. It's like you can just tell, you can just feel it. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't hold back. Let me tell you, they did not hold back. They did not hide it, man. Um, there was this one situation where it was towards it was towards the end of boot camp. It was towards the end of boot camp, and we were like cleaning up. I can't remember if I touched on this in volume one or not. I don't believe so. But we were cleaning up, cleaning our lockers, cleaning our areas, getting ready to pretty much graduate, you know. And this is like 2.5 months, 3 months later from when we first initially got there. So that goes to show you the significance in this story as well. How I told you, like, they didn't hold back and they just came out. They let us get a little radio, because, no cell phones, no electronics, nothing. The only music you would be blessed and fortunate enough to get was the music on the bus rides to whatever duty station and training station we would go to. But even then, you wasn't even really trying to listen to no music. You were just trying to catch a quick little nap, because you were just always sleepy, always tired. So bus rides was definitely nap time, and you appreciated the longer rides. But anyway, this particular story, they gave us a little radio to listen to while we cleaned out our lockers, cleaned out our areas, cleaned up the platoon. And he said he didn't, this one particular drill sergeant that gave it to us, he said he did not want to hear no rap music. Of course, he said he didn't want to hear no rap music. And this particular drill sergeant, who won drill sergeant of the cycle, which was crazy, man. I mean, he was from our platoon, and he won drill sergeant of the cycle. But like, let me tell you, man, no one liked this guy. No one liked this guy, and you can feel the bigotry and the racism like seeping out of this guy's pores when he was around you. Like, literally, like, you can tell he did not like any other race of people. Like, you can just tell. You can just feel the shit. Everyone knew the shit. The radio was on a station that was a diverse radio station. It played a variety of different things. It didn't just play one particular genre of music. It played a variety of different things. So I'll never forget it. Trophies by Drake. The song Trophies by Drake came on. And that was when that song had first came out. You know what I'm saying? So everyone who was a Drake fan was like, or liked it. Whether you were a Drake fan or not, the song was kind of catchy, and it was like, it hyped you up a little bit if you were a Drake fan. And like I said, being in boot camp and not having any type of music, and being at the end of boot camp, you hear that song come on, you're gonna, when that song came on, we had some like dumbbells, we had some weights like in the corner. There was like a little corner ducked off in the platoon where you can go work out if you wanted to, lift a little bit of weights. And we had a 35-pound dumbbell over there or something. And all we saw was the drill sergeant come from the back of where their office was at. They came from that platoon office. He came, walked over to the corner, grabbed that dumbbell. He walked over to the radio was on the floor. The radio wasn't that big at all. It was that big. And he simply just freaking slammed the dumbbell on the radio. And the radio went everywhere. Pieces. and he simply walked right out and went right back into the office. Now, the whole platoon was just quiet. Like, you can hear a pin drop on the floor. That's how quiet the platoon was. Like, no one could believe, like, he just did what he did. Like, over a Drake song. Like, you know what I'm saying? A Drake song. And it was almost like, forget the weight, forget the song, forget the radio, it was almost like, forget all of that. You can just, all that aside, you simply could just feel the hate and the hostility. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can literally just, you felt it. Like, when that weight hit the radio, it's like you literally felt how he feels about us. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he can do to us what he did to that radio, he would. You know what I'm saying? So, it's interesting to, now, like, mind you, so that was at the end of boot camp. So, we had to go through all of boot camp with this drill sergeant, with someone like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one instance with him, man. Like, I could sit here all night and go on and on about, what was things that he, would say and just do, just weird shit, man. I had a guy. I actually had a guy. I had a fellow soldier, man, a fellow battle buddy. He actually came up to me. He was from Indiana, yo. He was from Indiana, and you know what? He came up to me, and he admitted to me, face to face, flat out, admitted to me that this was the first time he had ever been around black people in person. First time ever, from a little white kid from Indiana, yo. And he straight up admitted to me, he was like, this is the first time I've ever seen or been around a black person in person. And when he said that, it was like so much went into perspective, so much clicked, because that right there explains why the majority of this country is the way it is, and the majority of this country is so ignorant and unfamiliar with other races and other cultures and other backgrounds. Just the simple fact that most people in these small rural towns all throughout the country, it's like that's the same story and that's the same case, and it's like that's the majority of the country. Anywhere outside of city limits, that's the majority of the country. People who've simply never been outside of their town or never branched out or got familiar or adjusted with any other type of way of life or any other type of way of people besides what they know. And it's just like that right there in a nutshell is why things are just so chaotic when it comes to any type of agreement or common ground or coming together to find a solution. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this is why it's just so, everything is just so divided and everything is so split up in this country. And it seems like, the only thing people, because men fear what they don't understand. People fear what they don't understand. So it's like most people's only response and reaction is to give some type of apprehension or some type of animosity and aggression or hatred toward another group of people. Unfortunately, that's the only response when it comes to something different or something we don't understand. And it seems like, that's just how people are in general. And to add on to that, I guess to make this about my own personal experience being in the Army, it wasn't until I joined the Army that I started to realize, and this is just adding on to what I was just saying about people just in general and overall. I didn't realize it wasn't until I joined the army, and that's when I realized how different I was. That's when I realized how much I stood out and how much of an outcast I was. Not necessarily a bad thing for me, but for everyone else, it was a problem. You know, um, and it wasn't until the army, me joining the army, that made me realize that and see that and understand it. That like, damn, like you really your mindset is really different from most people. Um, you look different from most people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to say this in an arrogant, cocky way. I'm just simply telling you what, just like what it was. You know what I'm saying? That just made my experience so peculiar and interesting and unique while I was in there. Because it was like, not only was I catching the bad vibes and the bad intentions and the evil eye from the racist white soldiers, but it was also the hate and jealousy and the ignorance that I was catching from the brothers and people that looked like me. Like, you know what I'm saying? They looked like me but didn't look like me. And that's what made me realize how different I was and how much I stood apart and how much it's like it's like how much I didn't fit in with y'all and how much I didn't look like y'all, as much as I tried to force that and be that. And it actually ended up costing me, you know, even after boot camp and even after AIT, getting to my unit, it was like just me being around certain people and hanging around certain people. It's like it painted this image and put like this dark cloud over me, as if I was a part of that when I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people should not be soldiers. If this one Russian soldier would probably kick 10 soldiers' asses in the United States military right now. Right now, at this moment, this is why we can't even find recruiters can't even get no one to join the army right now. They can't even get no one to join the military right now because we have become so soft. I mean, this is a topic for another time, but it's like, you know, we have become so soft as when I say soft, I mean no one is really going through anything or learning anything to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one is experiencing anything or being taught anything that's going to benefit them in the real world. And that's one thing I realized when I got in the army is like most people in there who couldn't pass a PT test to save their life literally could not pass a PT test. If it was death or passed this physical fitness test, it was death every time. Like, that was the majority of not only my unit, but that's the majority of the military right now. And it's like, what do you do with that? You know, how do you even coexist around someone like that? I tell people all the time, like, if I could do it all over again, I would have went to the Marines, no question. Like, and I'm not trying to, you know, throw shade or talk down on anyone, but um, the army was almost a little like it was really not like I should have went to the Marines. I should have like really tried to go do some hardcore fucking real shit, like for real. I should have tried to go get deployed. I should have tried to go on every tour I could have, because it was like being around most of the people that I was around. It was like most people just was not on my level when it came anything, just physical fitness, just being disciplined, or simply just wanting to do the right thing and staying out of fucking trouble. You know what I'm saying? It was just like most people around. It's like You can take the nigga out the hood, man, but you can't take the hood out the nigga, no matter where he's at. And I hate to say it like that, but it's like this shit is just so true, because it's like brothers are really gonna be who and what they are, no matter where they at, no matter what they're doing, no matter who they're around. And for the most part, most brothers just simply do not change and don't want to and don't care to. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's like that's what I'm saying. Like being in the army, yo, it's like it made me realize this so much, and it put it in like perspective so much, even for people back home. You know what I'm saying? And it was like it made things make sense for even people back home. Like damn, like this is what's going on with you niggas. You know what I'm saying? It's like what exactly is just wrong, man? That's when I started to realize just how set apart I was, and just why it just never worked, never clicked anyway, and just never amounted to much, man. You know, it's like you really got to see, because when you're around these guys, you're living with these guys, you're bleeding, you're sweating, you're crying, you're going through hell with these guys, so you get to learn how people really are. You know what I'm saying? And oh man, and there's an opposite side of that too. So you get to learn how people really are, so you think, because there's people that I was in the military with that I didn't get to see other sides of them until we was outside of the military. And the only reason I didn't see those sides before is because in the army, in the military, you're held to a certain, standard. You're held to a certain level of not being a fuck up. So it's like when you don't have those standards anymore, and you don't have that accountability no more, it's like you see the real sides of people, and you see like what people are really about. And I'm telling you, it's just not what you thought. It's like you think you know a motherfucker until you know a motherfucker. Like for real. And I'm not passing judgment on nobody, man. Like we all gonna leave here one day, and my goal now is to show as much love and give as much advice and much knowledge and wisdom and information that I can as I go and as I learn. Because, like I said, it wasn't until experiences and points like this in my life where I learned just what exactly is going on with people. You know what I'm saying? Before the military, I had no idea who I was. I had no idea I was who I was, I should say. Let me put it there. I had no idea I was who I was. And some of y'all may be like, well, who are you? Who you are? Who you think you are? You're watching me. I gotta be doing something. I gotta be someone, because let me tell you something. There's no reason for the type of energy I get from people and vibes I get from people everywhere I go. There's absolutely no reason for the type of energy and vibes I get from people that I've known for years. There's no other reason or explanation why people eventually turn out to start to treat and act the way they do towards me for no reason. So it's like you have to tell me that I have to be a little bit of something. You know what I'm saying? It's like the responses and the reactions I get out of people and the energy I get from people. It's like hold on, something ain't making sense. Something don't make sense. And I'm trying to tell you, like when I went into the army, it's like it all started to fall into place. And like damn, like this is what it's been this whole time. College, high school, middle school, elementary, to this day, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I didn't know I was who I was. And going inside the service and going inside the army, it was like painting a picture for me. I would trigger drill sergeants, and I wouldn't even do nothing sometimes. Like it was like just me coming around and me being around. It's like they felt threatened and challenged all of a sudden. And it was just like, damn, why me? Because I'm a foot taller than all the other soldiers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everyone else in the military is 4'5", and it's like it was a rare thing to see a soldier over 6 foot, put it like that. You know, so I already stood out because of that everywhere I went. And that was another thing. It was like I didn't realize how attractive I was. And like I said, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or sit here and make this about me and talk about how good I look. No, heck no. But the army made so much make sense to me on just simply how to deal with people, how to coexist around people, the different kind of people, different backgrounds, different cultures, and because that's another thing. I was meeting people from all over the world. People from literally all over the world was in my boot camp. Guys from Africa, Spain, Europe, guys from the Pacific Islands, um, guys, of course, from all over the country. You know, I was meeting guys from Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Like, who the hell would have ever thought I would be meeting people from those states, you know? Out west, Washington. And it was so cool to me to meet these guys because I was learning and to listen to these guys because I was learning about different parts of the country vicariously through them. You know what I'm saying? It's like I was vicariously learning things through them, just listening to them and how things were in their part. Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas. I almost took the head off of this young dude, man. This white dude, man, from Kansas, man. Yo, if it wasn't for my homie, if it was not for my homie Watkins, if you watching this video, shout out to you, bro, because I owe you one. If it wasn't for my homie Watkins and AIT, bro, I would have gotten in trouble. I would have got myself in trouble in AIT. We were on a school bus. We was on a bus headed to one of our training stations, yo. And I was sitting there, this white dude, young kid. He was like freaking 18, 19. And I was like 21, 22 at the time. Big ass fucking country ass fucking, you know what I'm saying? And he said some shit to me along the lines of, if it wasn't for us and my people, y'all wouldn't have nowhere to live and no food to eat and some shit. Like, apparently, like, he lived on like a farm back home. He was coming from like a farm or some shit. He was like a farmer and shit. And, you know, tractors and shit. And when he said that shit to me, you can just feel like the hatred. And you can tell like this is just how he was raised up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just where he come from. But when he said that shit to me, you can just feel like the hatred and the assertiveness he tried to put with that shit. Yo, I tell you, when I stood up, yo, because he was sitting on the inside by the window and I was standing on the outside. I had the whole alley, yo. When I stood up, yo, as soon as I did like this, as soon as I caught, like, I was about to just go crazy on him right there in the seat. As soon as I did like this, my man's Watkins came up right behind me and just grabbed me and was like, nah, park. Yo, I'm trying to tell you some shit. If it wasn't for Watkins grabbing me, I was going to, let me just stop telling me without telling y'all what I was going to do, but like, I would have got myself in trouble. Let's just put it like that. I was about to get myself in some trouble. Because you can't fight in there. If you get caught fighting in boot camp or AIT, you're automatically getting discharged, you're automatically getting sent home. That's just it. No matter who started what, no matter who what, y'all both are just out. That's just how it was at my time when we was in there. Cause even when we was at AIT, there was mad niggas. Yo, they had at least 15 fucking people waiting to go home because they got kicked out, who were just like being cycled over. They were just sitting around literally watching every cycle come and go because they was getting discharged and waiting to get kicked out for fighting or getting caught having sex or being on, you know, in the wrong building, whatever. But it was mainly fighting. You know what I'm saying? You know, niggas can't not fight. You know, so it's like, man, it was like, if it wasn't for my man Watkins grabbing me like that, bro, I'm trying to tell you, like, I would have been right in the same boat, just fucked up, waiting to go home, kicked out, discharged. But it was like this was the type of shit that you were dealing with, the type of energy that you were constantly surrounded by and constantly bombarded with and faced with and confronted with, man, was some type of bullshit. It's like I said, if it wasn't the racial shit from the whites, you was dealing with some dumbass, ignorant ass shit from the niggas. Like, you know what I'm saying? From the black, it was like it was constantly, something, bro. And no lie, going through boot camp at Fort Benning with nothing but men was probably the best thing that could have happened. That was probably the best thing that could have happened in my army experience. Let me tell you. It's like we got shit done. There was nothing holding us up, slowing us up. There was no distractions. You didn't have niggas beefing over fucking chicks. You didn't have chicks fighting over each other and beefing over niggas. Like it's like it was none of that. We just got shit done. Boom. When we got to AIT, and AIT was, it's like you had a little bit more freedom. It was more like college at AIT, but it was still like, very, very structured. You still had to do your workouts. You still had to go to, it was your training stations. It was still, but at the same time, all the soldiers that were coming from Benning, we were all like fresh out and shit. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So this was our first exposure and interaction with women and women soldiers and other women of abundance being around us. So I quickly saw why, how, and the difference in a co-ed training camp and an all-male training camp. You know what I'm saying? It was just a difference, let me tell you. And like I said, there was no distractions, there was no drama, no beef, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? And boot camp in Fort Benning. Now, don't get me wrong, there was, fights here and there that would potentially take off and pop off, but nothing like it was at AIT as far as the drama, the just, oh man. But being in there without a doubt messes with your mental health, without a doubt. Because like I said, it's like not only are you having to endure and go through the training part of things, but you're having to deal with so much other shit as far as racial differences and just, like I said, jealousy and just all kind of emotions and all kind of crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like people in there, a lot of people in there, it's like a lot of people in there had families back home, husbands, wives, and they was all getting cheated on. Both, whether it was guys inside getting John Deere letters, Dear John letters rather, whether their wife is leaving them while they're in there and shit and moving on with someone else. Oh God, you know how many guys that happened to and shit. And then the other side of it where guys had wives back home, but they inside cheating on their wife like a motherfucker. Like they don't even like got a whole army girlfriend. Like they don't got a whole family back home. Like I'm trying to tell y'all, and people be trying to like I'm fucking crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm the fucking